Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now let the stories begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Celebration of You, and what an amazing series of incredible guests that we've been blessed to have on the show. And as always, I never know the story really behind the story, but I always get excited to know that this show was a nudge from above. And for all of you all over the world who are listening to the show, I just thank you, your families, your dinners sitting in Russia, the people in Australia. And I mean, it's just amazing to me how human beings come together and how much hope we get when we hear stories from other people that are willing to reveal. Because when we reveal, we heal and we help others heal. So today's guest, I want you to know, was nominated and shared with me by a common mutual friend who, when I did the challenge, please nominate somebody, I said, oh, wow, do I have to have this incredible woman? And as I even start, you haven't even heard her voice yet. We've already been laughing, but I am going to say she is an angel on assignment, and you'll soon know why. So may I welcome the beautiful, the brilliant, and the amazing Karen Fournier. Karen, thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you, Holly. I can say that everyone needs a dose of you every day.
Wait, Karen, tell that to my husband.
You are uplifting already. So thank you so much.
Well, you are truly, I've been so excited to experience you, celebrate you, and share you with so many people all over the world, because there's so much about the story we're going to share. But let's start right now with, because you have this amazing voice coming through the microphone, talk to us about your current world. What are you passionate about? What are you currently doing? Tell us about your world.
Okay, so my current profession is a video producer, and I work in Loveland, Colorado with a lot of different nonprofits, businesses, entrepreneurs. I work from with a huge variety of people, from quilters to artists to, insurance agents. I mean, I have a psychologist specializing in PTSD, all kinds of different people that I get to work with. Amazing nonprofits doing great work in the world, and everything that I do helps them to do what they love to do. So I love it.
I love that you get to do that. And what a amazing time we're in the midst of this pandemic. So many things are virtual, and so many, what I'm hearing in statistics, video's gone way up, right? Because it's the only way we're communicating.
Right. A lot of people, were frozen in place for a while, but then they realized I've got to reach out to people however I can. A lot of people are creating online courses and so forth to put forward their expertise. So I'm working with a lot of people in that way. And I have a new filming studio, which I love. And I get to do a lot of great work in there, creating programs with people and educational and marketing materials.
Well, you know what? Now that I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, well, Natalie and I have needed an excuse to see each other. And she's the reason, the beautiful, brilliant, amazing Natalie Phillips. We're going to give her a shout out, right?
She's amazing.
Well, I think I need to come shoot some future business videos with you. And then we'll invite Natalie and we'll have some fun.
Well, that sounds amazing. And then I get to soak up both of your energies, and I would love that. So fun. It's amazing what it can do for people. It's really a great way to capture the essence of who you are, and it'll capture way more in a minute or two than 1,000 words on a page could ever do. So I love it.
I love that. And I love that you're bringing people, their heart, their soul, and their stories to life. And actually, what we're about to do is do the same thing, because you've had what most people would not believe until you hear it. And the little I know, you have 3 beautiful daughters, from what I understand. Of course, gorgeous, yes. Right? I mean, gorgeous in every way.
Aww.
And yeah, in their pictures, they're just stunning. And
they're wonderful people.
Well, of course they are, because they have you.
Aww.
And you have fought to help them in the last couple of years. And coming from being a psychologist yourself and a counselor, and it's amazing to me, you've spent years working with people that have mental illness and,
Hmm.
I mean, coming from that experience and then, well, let's just
Living
go
it.
to it, then living it. Three
Mhm.
daughters that have all battled a severe mental health, right? All three?
Right. So I was a teacher in my past life many moons ago. I taught for 12 years. I have a psychology degree. I tutored kids in a psychiatric ward, and I was a counselor in a group home for emotionally disturbed boys, ages 5 through 12. So I felt like I had a lot of skills, and I felt very sure about being a parent, when that was to come. But, parenthood is not always what you think it's going to be because as skilled as you are or as caring as you are, sometimes life just throws you a different hand. And my daughters are amazing and wonderful. I'm very proud of them. Um, but we had a lot of problems with depression in my family, and all three of my daughters have at one point been suicidal. So one of my daughters, 4 years ago, we nearly lost her twice in the span of 2 months, and it was the razor's edge between life and death. And we did not lose her, so we were very,
Oh.
very fortunate to still have her. And today I can say that she's a 180 and is thriving, which is amazing. And that my another daughter, just this past spring, had a horrible time with depression and was suicidal and writing goodbye letters. So we had to intervene there. And then another daughter, because of all of the chaos that ensues, when all these things are going on, it can be volatile, it can be unsure, it can be scary. You're afraid for your sister's lives and that kind of thing. So she started to have a lot of really crippling panic attacks and anxiety, and she became suicidal as well. So
Oh,
it's really been tough, I can tell you.
it's,
But that being said, we are on the road to healing and things are getting better. So we just take it one day at a time.
well, just the fact that your courage, so thank you for one, and thank them for allowing permission for you to share this and talk about it because there is an all-time high in this pandemic. It's an epidemic with depression and suicide.
Yep.
And, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's
It's
the,
crazy how much of an epidemic has become. So what happened as a result of this journey, it's been really, just painful. We battled a lot of outside stressors. Um, Abuse was one thing, verbal abuse, and the other was bullying. So there were a
wait,
lot of
pause right
online.
there. When you mean verbal abuse and bullying, tell us what you mean when you say that.
So,
Outside the home?
the verbal abuse was inside our home, and that was really hard for the girls to endure, and for me as well. And I literally didn't realize. It's really amazing when you're in a situation. You always think if you don't get a black eye that it's not abuse, right? And that's what I've been told myself, which is, I feel, insulting and insensitive because there are other ways that people can be abused in many different ways: financial abuse, emotional abuse. There's other ways besides violent type abuse. And so it can really leave a mark on your heart and soul. And it can last a long time in your life, the damage from that. And it can also appear much later as a delayed response to it. So I wish that I had a crystal ball when the girls were little, because I would have made changes a lot earlier. And I was very resistant, I guess, to medication and all that kind of thing. And I've always been strong emotionally. And I thought, you can just pull yourself up. And it's just, I don't recommend that route at all. If your children are struggling, if you have problems, I really recommend professional intervention because it made a world of difference for my daughters and even for myself too. So, and then the other part was bullying. Bullying was, um, I guess you wouldn't even cyberbullying, but not in the way that you would think where, people are mean to each other. there is actually a really frightening um, community online that reaches out to kids and actually is pro suicide. It,
I've heard about this.
yeah, this
It's
is,
like a cult. It's a cult. It's getting them,
it's
right?
horrible actually. And there are predators who, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you think this will never be your child because they know better, it's not true. Because I am a really good parent. I know that I did everything I could. I know my kids, knew better. But these people are predators. There are men out there that will prey on children and they know how to get them to share and to do things they wouldn't have otherwise done. And it's mortifying. The other part, the pro suicide part that I was talking about, there are little groups, of teens, and they'll be like, hooray, drinking bleach is so fun. And here's a picture of someone pouring bleach into a glass, and like as though you're going to drink it. And, like little funny memes of someone pointing a gun to their head. And like, it's not funny, obviously, but they make light of the suicidal attempting, and they almost even encourage it. And it's just horrible, horrible, horrible. And then another thing that happened was when my daughter came home from the hospital, I had to suicide proof the house, right?
And
So
what does that mean? Tell people.
so
Yeah,
that means you need to make the house safe from them hurting themselves. Because when they come home, there are things that they can get to that would allow them to hurt themselves again. And I did not realize when a child comes home, they're 100 times more likely to try and attempt again after a first attempt.
that's
So
interesting. I've never heard
yeah,
that
and
before.
neither had I, and boy, did I wish I had, because
Yeah,
for us, it happened twice in 2 months with one of my daughters. So, and I had done everything I could, and she's just found a way, So it was just really painful and sad. But what happened was my friend came over that day to try and suicide proof the house. And we went online and we literally Googled how to suicide proof your house. And on page one of Google was a
no.
website that came up and it said how to kill yourself.
I knew you were
And
going to say this.
yeah, it's really sad and disgusting. So what happened, we went in because we were mortified and curious, and there were little sketches of all these happy things, black and white sketches with little pops of color. And it was all, yay, hooray, it's so funny and it's so fun and do it. And top 10 ways you can do it, and how many ounces of this to ingest, and how many, whatever. It was all very specific on what you could do. And I'll never forget, there was a little martini party, and everybody's martini glasses had blue liquid, and it was window cleaner in there. And it told you, drink X ounces of window cleaner to die. And I just was so mortified and so heartsick to know that there are so many good people in this world, but yet on the other side, there are people that are,
Evil. Evil.
evil. It's
It's
just
evil.
evil.
It's evil.
And I just,
Mm.
it's so hard to go through what you're going through, because you're hurting for your child. You don't know what is going to come from one day to the next. You're fighting to keep them alive, and you have these outside influencers who battle against you. So you're not only battling the mental illness, you're also battling against the outside people that are coming, like, to get your children. And it's
Mm.
I can't say enough about how little we know about what our kids are really doing online. It's so scary, and I was very naive about it. But that being said, all the counselors, everybody told me, you can't just take their phone away. It will pull the rug out from under them. You need to still have their lifelines to their friends and the people that love them. And this is how they communicate. So it can be devastating if you pull that away. But, there have to be, you know, safeguards in place and awareness of what the heck's going on in your child's world. So it
Oh,
was it's just really a sad and painful thing to have gone through. But my daughters, I have to tell you, I'm so just amazingly proud of each of them.
Tell us about
They're
each of them now and how healthy they are and what. Let's talk about, for anybody listening, Karen, and I just want you to know I have a dear friend right now who is in very, very private, who is dealing with a young daughter in this exact place right now.
mm,
So
it's
it's like I feel like it's just the three of us sitting here. But
yeah.
I need to know. Let's talk about. I want to celebrate the girls, and I also want to not miss out on. Please talk to parents out there or people that are seeing young people. What are the signs? How do you know? I mean, you didn't just have one; you had three beautiful
Hmm.
daughters battling this. So, what advice can you give? I mean, I know you want them to seek professional help, but behind closed doors,
Right.
what are the signs and what can you start doing literally right this second?
It's daunting, and it doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes there's a lot of different stressors that combine, and sometimes you don't realize because they don't really show it either. So that's what's scary too. But I would say if your child has a change in mood, um, or like they stop, their personality is different and they start being more isolated, spending more time in their room, things like that, depressed appetite. Sometimes it can be angry outbursts that are out of nowhere and you're like, where is this coming from? And a lot of times you are the punching bag, I'm going to tell you that.
Oh,
Because as a
mhm.
parent, that's the hardest thing, because you're hurting for them, you love them, but you will be their punching bag because you are the safe place. You are the one that they love and trust. And so they unleash it on you. So when you're going through that, it's very difficult to stay positive and, you know, because you are so distraught. And so uh, you're becoming, emotionally abused by their behavior because they are just, hurting, right? They're in pain. And this is how they're lashing out. So I would say, try not to take this personally, because it is, and even if they even say this is your fault, or
Or I hate you, or
we're
whatever.
yeah,
Those horrible
yeah,
words.
exactly.
Yes. Okay.
There's a huge amount of guilt that we carry, and I have a huge list of regrets, and you cannot change anything that happened. You can only move forward in a positive direction. You can only be proactive. So that leads me to the title of the book, which is that I wrote, which is Helpless Night, Hopeful Dawn, Staying Positive and Proactive When Your Child is Suicidal. And it's just a whole series of advice, and it's our memoir. It has education about suicide, bullying, and abuse, which were our factors. There's also an infographic that shows all the other stressors that can cause depression, because suicide, the main reason people attempt is because they are severely depressed. That's the main reason. So addressing those stressors is the key. What are the things that are surrounding our kids that are taking them down and that can pull them into that depressive state? So there's a lot of ways to combat it, and that I have a lot of advice in the book, which is great.
Good.
The book is still being written, by the way.
I love it. Well, this is happening very fast in your life, right?
Yes, it's all coming together. It's kind of amazing, and it's turned into this mission. Um, I have in the book, I also have advice on staying positive, hopeful, deflecting judgment, because you would be amazed the places that you do not expect it. Sometimes you get people judging your child, like for being, they think they're
Oh,
selfish for being that way, and uh, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with a state of despondency. It does not have to do with them trying to be selfish against you at all. That is just a lack of education, and it's a lack of compassion. So, and then talking about how you can stay compassionate when your house is so volatile and you're just ready to, and it takes time. That's the number one thing that my daughter told me. The one who attempted twice. I said, "How did you? If people want to know how you get through this," and she said, "Time. It takes time." And she runs. She runs all the time. She said,
good.
"Running has been my mainstay of my emotional wellness." She said, it makes me feel so good to run. So she's found an outlet for a healthy emotional way to, put her negative emotions into kind of like that, and getting them out of herself. So that helps her a lot. And then another daughter finds solace with music.
Oh,
So she's
yeah.
actually on a harp scholarship at CU Boulder.
Oh,
And
wow,
yeah, it's pretty
Karen.
cool. And so she's a very gifted musician, and she found the harp like a year before she graduated, and she just threw herself into it, and because she had such musical ability and had already played other instruments, she was able to get the scholarship. So
Wow.
music for her is a really healthy emotional outlet, and she writes music now. She's writing music with guitar and singing, and
Wow.
so that's her outlet. And then my youngest is a writer, and she loves her friends and she loves being creative. And, so they've all found healthy ways to kind of divert this emotional angst. And we've had so many programs and counseling. And, I cannot stress enough that you think that they're getting better. It's only been repressed. Trust me when I say this. You think, oh, they're having a bad spell. Oh, they seem better now. We don't need to do anything. It's just hiding and waiting to come back in a different way. It's amazing because I've seen it time and again. If you do not address it, it will come back because it
Mm.
needs to be addressed. It's going to
And
knock on your door until
and
you listen.
that's why it's so important for everyone out there to listen. Don't think this is just something that this too shall pass. Get professional help.
Yep,
This
that's
is
the
where it makes a huge difference.
yeah. And I also want to talk about pain a little bit because
Yes.
um, your energy, pain is an inward energy, right? You have a lot of pain and you are suffering basically. And I think that a lot of us want to pain, well, hello, it hurts, right? So we avoid it, right? Because
Correct.
it hurts.
Yep.
And it's really hard to almost accept your pain because I think the more that you can do that, the more that you cannot resist your pain and allow your pain to kind of maybe do its job, but then you kind of overcome it and you heal. If you can embrace that in that journey and you don't just repress it, I guess, and never deal with it, I feel like that creates a better path for healing in the long run. um, and you can find the lessons in your pain. And it's my girls and I are so close. And I do not think we would have been this close if we hadn't gone through these trials together.
Totally
And
agree.
it's
Totally.
bonded us because we found the healing and the joy and the lessons in it together. And what I'm trying to do is I'm using this pain of our family for the good. So what happened was I wrote this book. I met with Natalie one day and she said, "This story is so, you should just write a book." And I'm like, "Really? I
She
never
was
really
your little
thought."
nudge.
I
Yes.
know. So what happened was the next day, I literally met with Natalie on a Friday. And the next morning, I woke up and I started to write. And I wrote, it was a Saturday, I wrote 8 hours straight. And then for 16 straight days, I literally wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And I couldn't stop writing. I would get up at 3:30 in the morning, get up and go write. And I would write for 8 hours and still be in my pajamas. It's like, what
Wow.
is going on? So it was like this pouring out of all this. And what started to happen was I started to feel this purpose and this mission to help other parents who are going through this,
Yes.
because you feel so alone that not everyone that is going through this. And you know it's just hard because they don't really always get it, right? They don't understand what you're going through if your child is having such bad emotional struggles. So what I did is I decided to do, it's a kind of a three-prong mission. So part of it will be the book, and that's going to
Yes.
have the memoir, and it's going to have advice, education, a parent self-reflection section, and then a resources and tools section. So that's the book. And then I'm also doing a podcast of
I
my
can't
own.
wait.
Yay, I'm so
Yay.
excited.
I'm so excited.
So yeah, so I was telling you that I have actually, through my job as a video producer, I have literally interviewed over 600 people
Yes. That's crazy.
in my career. So interviewing has become kind of second nature to me. And I'm naturally curious and I love learning. And I was a teacher, right? So I feel like with the podcast, it's going to be called Proactive Parenting for Emotional Wellness, with Karen Fournier. So basically, it's
Oh,
not up yet, and I'm still working on kind of the logistics of it. But the whole premise is to interview mental wellness experts so that we can bring light to what our kids go through, and we can become more aware maybe of warning signs and all of the topics that I'm going to be doing these interviews on are the stressors that create depression or that could create depression. So it's really great, even if your child is not suicidal or if they are totally emotionally healthy, it's still really great parenting information, advice, education, tools, resources, all that kind of thing.
I love
So,
this. And I have to say, so it's coming to me really strongly right now. Have you considered in your series, it's your podcast, to also interview survivors, people that have survived extreme mental health and suicide, to be on the healthier side, so that we're not just hearing from experts, but we're hearing from
yeah,
real people?
that is a great idea. I think there's something to be said. As I feel right now, I could read 1,000 books on suicide, right? But I wouldn't get the education that I got from walking it with my children. So
Yeah.
I feel experience is the best teacher by far, and that is a great idea. So what I'm trying to do with the whole thing is to teach people to learn to combat and even recognize what these stressors are for their children, and to do all that we can to raise emotionally well children, basically. So
Yeah.
I have really some great people already lined up. I interviewed a PTSD expert last
Good.
week. He's actually one of my clients, and he's agreed to allow me to use some of his interview for the purposes of the podcast. I have a gender specialist. Well, he works with men. He counsels men, and so we're going to talk about how would you raise an emotionally well boy, right?
Oh, I
Because
love that. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
like how do men process emotions versus a woman in general, of course. And then animal support. I've done a lot of videos on therapeutic horseback riding and how that the human animal bond
Oh, it's huge.
can really help us through emotionally. And I mean, you know how when everything just comes around you and it supports what you're doing, and
Yes.
everywhere you look, even when you're not looking, there's somebody there that's going to help you anyway. Like my car dealer 2 months ago was a former cyberbullying expert, ex cop from Florida, wonderful guy. And he knew all about people
Oh,
committing suicide from being cyberbullied. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're my car dealer. And here you are. And he's like, I will help you. I will be, on your podcast. So
isn't that
it's
amazing?
crazy.
I love that you just said that, because everybody that listens to this show knows I am incredibly spiritual in the biggest form of our universe. It's serendipitous. When you say yes to follow the nudge that's going to
Yep.
serve this world in a much higher calling, everything starts to happen. I mean, I'm literally getting
Yep.
goosies as I'm listening to you,
Yes.
because it's true. It's happening to you right now.
It
This
is,
is
and
it.
I have a wonderful business coach, Linda Coulterberg, and I'm going to give her a shout because she's so amazing, and she helps me kind of process everything that's going on. And I told her today, I said, everything, the word that I hear constantly with this venture moving forward is yes. That's the word I hear. And it's not someone even literally saying yes. It's like, what can I do to help you? And so forth. And so it's amazing. So that brings me to the third prong. So I have the book, the podcast, and then the third prong is going to be a scholarship fund. Okay.
Yes, I love
Yay. I'm so
this.
excited about
Yes.
this. Okay. So this is it's called the Shine the Light Scholarship, and this is going to be okay. So two of my daughters participated in, they're called partial hospitalization programs, or intensive outpatient programs,
Okay, so
IOP
the
or
difference
PH.
between outpatient and inpatient, is it kind of halfway in between?
Well, it's very intensive, but you don't stay there.
Okay.
So you go
Okay.
like 3 days a week, 3 hours a day kind of thing. It's quite intensive, and it's about 90 contact hours or more sometimes. So the therapy that they're using in these programs usually is called DBT, or dialectical behavior therapy, it's called.
Ooh.
And what they do is they really work with the kids on mindfulness. They work on like interpersonal effectiveness skills, distress tolerance, And they also work with, emotion regulation. So one of my daughters said, I am in pain every day. And she said, when I'm sad, my emotion of sadness floods my entire being and I cannot stop it. It just takes me over. And so that's why she was going into such depression, because she just could not get a hold of, what was washing over her, right? Because she feels
The
deeply.
sadness. It's such a deep, deep, deep emotional feeling,
Yeah,
right?
but
Yeah.
yet when she's happy, she's really happy because that's how she is. Her emotions flood her, right? So what this taught her, she came running over to me halfway through this program. There's a 100-page manual that comes with it with all these if-then scenarios, and it's very specific training on how to deal with difficult emotions and difficult situations and difficult relationships. So it's very skill based in coping skills.
Mm.
And it was not invented, I guess developed a few decades ago. And it has a very high success rate in curtailing suicidal ideation. So, and I could see with both my daughters who were in that program, that for them, it really made a huge difference, especially for one of my daughters. She was like, this has changed my life because now emotions don't just flood me. I can actually find a way to fight back emotionally against it with my mind, my logical mind. So
It's beautiful. It's like
she
a toolkit. She's been given
exactly.
tools. I love this.
Yes, so
Yes.
it's been amazing. So what really struck me about this was, okay, this is a pricey program, but we had insurance. And then if you have insurance, they're going to, do the discounted insurance rate or whatever, and then you pay the out of pocket that's left. So it's not as bad as an $8,000 to $10,000 program. You're still paying an amount, but it's not that. So it just struck me like how fortunate we were, right? Because we had insurance and we
Yes.
could afford the copay. So what about the families who aren't insured and they can't afford this and they maybe live in poverty or whatever? But is it fair that because you're not affluent that your child then just has to suffer because of that?
I love what
So
you're doing. Oh boy.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes. So what I did is I just, it's just simple. I'm just asking. So what I'm doing is right now I'm talking to an entity that is going to house this kind of scholarship, and the money will go into their foundation, and that money will be earmarked for scholarships for kids who are suicidal, who cannot afford, the parents can't afford to send them. They can go to these programs. So
I love
that's it in a
this.
nutshell.
Oh my gosh, I love this, Karen. Okay, so what a beautiful way to tie this up with a bow, because little did you know, probably at the start of 2020, not only would we be hit with the pandemic, but you had no idea the
Right.
story and the journey that you and your three beautiful angels on earth were about to share with the world. And it's going to be global. I do believe your help. This crosses all boundaries. This is not gender specific. This is not educational specific, right? This is
Mhm.
so across every continent. And what's fascinating is I'm listening to you, which I told you at the beginning, I usually don't know the entire story or not too much because I like my own element of
Mhm.
the wow, and just knowing what you've been through. Your three girls are now on the other side. It's still a day-to-day, taking care of ourselves, right? Having
Yep.
the tools, which I love that you're being courageous, and they are too. You may not know this, but I sit on the board for the Global Anti-Child Exploitation Committee. And
Wow.
yeah, there's a global summit that we just had to produce the whole thing this year, virtually, October 10th. But the reason I bring it up, I have learned so much, hard to learn in the last 2 years, being very immersed in this, about what you're sharing. And
Mhm.
you hit on the bullying and then the suicide, like crazy groups out there. A lot
Yeah.
of these kids, people who are listening, these innocent, beautiful children, just like Karen's, are being infiltrated by pedophiles all over the world. So depression is being a big result, and suicide, of
Mhm.
these sick, evil human beings that are perpetrating and getting to them. And they can be in their own bedroom next door to yours, and you have no idea what's happening,
Exactly.
right?
It's another world that's in your house.
Yes. And so as I
sad.
was listening to you, I was like, this is another reason why it's so important that we create awareness, because suicide in the old days, we used to think it was only because of a chemical imbalance, right? That's all we knew. And I have a brother that has survived massive mental health, suicide, heroin,
Oh,
but we're all thrivers, right? Like your daughter is now.
yeah.
And I say, if we aren't out here, our biggest thing is we talk about cancer all day long, but we
Right.
shove mental health, depression under the carpet like it's a faux pas,
Oh my
right?
gosh. I could not agree with you more. That's exactly what I think. It's, why is it you can happily or easily tell someone, oh, I broke my ankle, but if you're having emotional problems, it's kind of a hush hush faux pas, you just don't talk about it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'll tell you too, what I learned out from this is I didn't realize this, but depression is the number one cause of disability. So if people only even cared about the bottom line of productivity and money, I mean, if that's all they cared about, even that, for that alone, we are not as productive. But wouldn't you want people to just be, self-actualized and happy? And wouldn't we just have just a better society in general? School shootings, homelessness. There's
Yes.
so many things that tie into mental illness. So we need to start looking at this topic and start talking about it. And it was hard, because I had to run this by my daughters for them to be okay for us to tell the story. And um, and they just said, please don't use our names.
Correct.
You can tell our stories, but don't use our names. And I said, fine, that's fine. And they are really on board with this, and because they know that it can help people. We can start a conversation. We can make a difference. So get this. So the scholarship,
Yes.
I was at this, uh, okay, so I was in a networking situation, and there was a person there that worked for a funeral home. She comes up to me and she said, I want to help you support your scholarship. And she said, our funeral home works with anti-suicide. Um,
Oh.
she said, people come in here and they plan their own funerals because they know they're about to do it. And she said, we want to stop that. So we are putting money into anti-suicide and, pro wellness and all that kind of thing. So she said, can we be your first scholarship?
Oh
And I
my
was
God,
like, well,
Karen.
I
Oh
don't
my.
even have it set up yet, but yes, you
Yes.
can.
But don't you see, you're saying yes, yes,
Exactly. It's all the
yes.
yeses. So I'm
It's
thinking, if I did nothing else, then that one child who has that one scholarship, their life will be, changed or affected or for the better, and it will change the
absolutely.
trajectory of their life. So I'm thinking, if I even put a little bit of effort into this, then it will. I feel like I'm not driving this mission, it's
No,
driving me. That's what I
absolutely.
feel.
And it's something much greater than you and much greater than your daughters. You are a part of this that's going to make an impact and save, not just heal and bring hope, save lives.
Yeah,
So,
I
on that
always.
note, will you do me a favor?
Sure.
We're going to wrap this up, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that want to know, how can they reach out to you? How can they find out about your book when it comes out? Any way that people want to reach out to you, will you please tell us what is the best way for people to reach
Sure.
out to you?
Okay. So I will, like I said, this is all a huge venture that's just starting to be up and running. So right now, I'm working on the website, but it's not up yet. But the way to contact me in the moment is to email me, and I can notify you about things as they launch and come up and everything. And so the email is contact@hopefuldawn.com. So hopeful, DAWN.com. And
Ooh, I love that.
the website will be hopefuldawn.com. The podcast is going to launch within a month or two. The book should be published probably after Christmas, I'm guessing. And if you know an expert that I could interview, if you want me to speak at your event, if you want to sponsor a child, whatever, however or you want to just be informed as things launch, or, when the book comes out or whatever, I'd be happy to do that.
I
And
love that. I
yeah,
love
so
that.
I just have one last, I guess, piece of advice for everyone is, you can get through this. You can get through anything if you stay hopeful and positive. and stay strong and show that unconditional love for that child who's hurting. And we all need to band together because our world is hurting right now.
Yes, our world is hurting. And I love that. And I would normally ask, what's your final piece of advice? So you guys got it. There's Karen's finale advice. And I just thank you for being a mom that shows what parenting is all about, fighting for your children, not thinking this too shall pass, and getting in there in the weeds with them and figuring out how to get them the best help necessary. And this is all part of what a beautiful journey that you're going to share with everyone. And I thank you, Karen, for being here. Thank you, my love. Tell your daughters how much we appreciate them and value them and adore and respect them for who they are.
Thank you, Holly. I appreciate your giving us a voice, and I appreciate what you're doing with your podcast and spotlighting amazing people in this world. It's really uplifting, and we need a lot more of that today. So thank you.
You're welcome. We'll band together. Moving forward, we're going to keep this up.
We can do it.
You're amazing. Thank you.
Well, you are too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.